Happy Martin Luther King Jr. Day, guys. This is Christopher Zimmerman with my colleague, or my brother from another mother, AJ Gear. We are the Sportsaholics,
Yes,
as
we
we
are.
call ourselves, because we love sports. We love it. No
Any
matter
sport,
what, we love it.
Name it, we love it.
Besides lacrosse and a few other those
Yeah,
non-American sports, or
right.
whatever you want to call them.
Basket weaving, not even a sport.
Nope. But we will cover the NFL games that happened Saturday and Sunday. The beginning of the game started with the Packers and the Rams. The Rams lost and are headed bye-bye back to LA.
Bye.
My
Bye, Los
team,
Angeles.
my team, the Colts, and his team, the Steelers, both left in the first round.
Corvette.
They got to make sure that Big Ben stays healthy, and I got to make sure my team keeps Phillip Rivers. Who knows with everybody's older age, but we'll figure it out. But we are going to cover Aaron Rodgers first. Aaron Rodgers looked pretty good. I mean, he didn't have to do much because his offense is ridiculous. But AJ, what do you think about Aaron Rodgers and the Green Bay Packers?
Well, I think Aaron Rodgers did what he did best, but honestly, there was a couple throws. I mean, he was 23 for 36, and there's a couple incompletions there that were kind of showing his old age. And I know people say that a lot, like, "Ooh, he's getting old." Well, we haven't seen an old age sign from Aaron Rodgers in a while, but I think we saw a couple of them yesterday. Well, it didn't matter much. We did see a couple, and also he didn't get sacked at all, which you said it earlier. I mean, he didn't get sacked. I mean, his offensive line is great, and I think Jared Goff. I think people give him too much crap. I think he's a good quarterback. I mean, he only had 6 incompletions, and he did get sacked 4 times. But I mean, I think he's still the starter next year.
Well, there's no doubt in my mind that Jared Goff will still be the starter because they drafted him in first overall and said that he was the future of their franchise, which LA, of course, moving to LA, and then first time of that news, SoFi Stadium. I think Aaron Rodgers is still Aaron Rodgers is still Aaron Rodgers. You can't beat Aaron Rodgers.
Aaron Rodgers is a bad man.
For as old as he is, everybody complains about age. I don't complain about age much. I mean, Drew Brees, yes, he's 41, 42 years old. I think he's still got it. Yes, he can only not throw a ball past 10 yards, but it's just because quarterbacks only can last so long into a franchise before they finally are like, you know what, it's time to move on.
Good change of scenery, right?
Everybody just wants to experience new things, like the Colts, Andrew Luck retiring 2 years ago, right before the season started. We had to go to Jacoby Brissett. We went 7-9. We relied on him. Then we signed Phillip Rivers. Everybody's like, dude, Phillip Rivers sucks. He's terrible. I can't believe this guy's even still in the league. Well, everybody questions the Colts, why they went, especially with Phillip Rivers on that Hail Mary. Yes, he didn't make the end zone. It still showed that he had a lot of experience and was able to, yes, he has that weird sidearm, but he still has it. People question Big Ben. Big Ben had to throw 68 times with that poor bad luck game. Big older quarterbacks should not have to throw 68 times.
No, they shouldn't. They don't have a run game, and that's
nope.
Big Ben carried that team on their back that game, and almost took them back to the almost made a comeback there at the end.
Yes. But the Packers, I think, are going to go to the Super Bowl. Yes, the Buccaneers won last night. I don't think it'll stand out to anywhere else and anybody else. But the big question is, who's going to win the AFC? As we saw last week, or Saturday at least, that the Bills did beat the Baltimore Ravens.
Yes, they did.
Yes, Lamar Jackson did get hurt. He had a concussion. Is that correct?
Yeah, he did, and it was. I mean, that was a brutal hit.
Now, how do you feel about? Yes, we talk about guys like Aaron Rodgers or these older pocket passer quarterbacks. How do you feel about the new, as I like to call it, the new NFL? The running / a ton of throwing power and these guys being big and able to throw.
Right. And I think Cam Newton kind of started that trend a little bit. when he came out of Auburn. I mean, but if you notice, not wanting to jinx anything, because I think Lamar Jackson's he's a legit quarterback. He's a great quarterback. But if you see Cam Newton, man, he's bigger than Lamar Jackson. But you see him out there, he's trucking people over, and he was a good quarterback for a while. I mean, he had something special that nobody else had, and we didn't see anything like it. I mean, he could run, and then the next play he could throw a big yard touchdown. But then, I mean, now he's on the down slope, you know. And I think that's showing that those running quarterbacks, they have a limited time.
And going back to Cam Newton was a MVP ever since that. Honestly, you saw his downslope going from that 2015 Super Bowl when he
Right.
won that MVP, and
I mean, that was a good team. He brought so much energy to that team, and that was a fun team to watch.
yeah, and especially with Peyton Manning also on the decline that year, and man, it was tough to. Yes, I was a Peyton Manning fan, being a Colts fan, but watching Peyton Manning just do his last throws and seeing that Broncos defense just deteriorate that MVP
Right.
rating was thing, and we saw with guys like Michael Vick and all these other guys, they were only in the league for so long. Especially, yes, Michael Vick was in prison and all these other things.
Right.
He was a good quarterback.
He was a great quarterback.
He was but he was limited to his years. I'm starting to see that with Lamar Jackson. Lamar Jackson can only start getting hit for so long,
Right.
because the quarterback position is not made to slam into each other all the time. That's not what that's for.
But if I may, though, I think I was a little critical about Lamar Jackson just a couple seconds ago, but I think he's better than Mike Vick. I mean, you see those cuts he makes. I mean, it's like not many running backs can even do that. I mean, but he can throw too, and I think that's something that people don't see. I mean, maybe he's not as accurate, but I mean, he can throw it downfield. He's got that weird. He puts that really weird spiral on the ball, and it spirals kind of up. But I mean, if he had better receivers, I mean, Marquise Brown is good. He's okay, but and I mean, Des Bryant, he's old. Willie Snead, I mean, he's to me he's like a wide receiver 4, and then you got like Miles Boykin, he's decent, but they just need better. He needs better weapons, and while I think that their running backs are pretty good. I mean, the J.K. Dobbins is looking good, but I think
especially with the decline of Mark Ingram too.
Yes.
Now, how do you feel about the Buffalo Bills? With the Buffalo Bills beating, they look good. I mean, yes, they beat my Colts by 3, and we put up a good fight. I thought the Baltimore Ravens would put up a much better fight, but
I thought it was gonna be a lot more of an offensive game.
But it was a really considered to the NFL, it's a really low scoring game, 17-3. I mean, that's kind of low scoring at today's world, just because all these teams can put up 40 burgers, 50 burgers, 30 burgers on a daily basis. I mean, that's normal. That's today's world. That's normal. Yeah. But the Bills really took 3 years just to put a super team together. Really, getting Josh Allen in the draft, which that was kind of a steal on their part because of how late he went in the draft.
I'm surprised he went that late.
And you're also looking at, the 2 running backs, Zach Moss and Singletary. I mean, they're good. They don't run the ball much anymore, because.
If you look at the running stats, they barely ran at all.
I mean, that passing game they have, excellent. I mean, excellent. Because them trading for the Stephon Diggs. That was a huge trade. I don't know why Minnesota, traded him.
Yeah, gave him up. But him and Josh Allen have a chemistry like no other. I mean, you see him out there. It's like they got their own little secret language, their little like telepathic powers.
Yeah, it's like Montana and Rice or Manning and Marvin Harrison. Great quarterback wide receiver duos. Now, of course, Josh Allen does have more than Stephon Diggs, like John Brown, Cole Beasley, Dawson Knox, Gabriel Davis,
Isaiah McKenzie.
All these guys can all do it all. I mean, it's impressive to watch this team that just was developed in 3 years, and the Bills organization has done a phenomenal job.
Absolutely, and if you see, Cole Beasley had 0 catches, and he had 4 targets, but they kind of shut him down. But I do have to give credit to Sean McDermott for that game. It kind of reminded me of the of Super Bowl 53 with the Patriots and the Rams. Everyone expected that to be a high-power offensive game because that whole year It was like the most points scored in any year in NFL history ever. It was just an offensive year. And then you have the most defensive game in Super Bowl history. And you see Bill Belichick, everyone was expecting them to go all offensive, but Bill Belichick really worked on that defensive side of the ball. And if you saw the defense for the Bills, all those, they just went all out blitzing on them. And I mean, it worked. They found what Lamar Jackson's weakness was, and it worked. And it showed that Lamar Jackson is mortal. People can't stop him.
And it also helps that you could have. Everybody thinks it's always the head coach's fault for the team falling apart or other things. No, it's not just the head coach. It's the defensive coordinator and that offensive coordinator and then even special teams and all these other
There's a lot of different pieces. I mean, there's 53 players and like 20 people on the staff, so it's not just one person's fault ever.
No, it's not. Now, we will go to the Kansas City Chiefs game, which was really closer than we all thought. We thought that, yes, the Browns putting up 47 against the Steelers. Baker Mayfield looked as comfortable as I'd ever seen him in the NFL. I mean, I was darn near impressed last week. I couldn't believe it. Honestly, you can't get me wrong. Yes, for being the Steelers, they kind of ate you up a little bit.
They did.
But Baker Mayfield did look a little uncomfortable going up against Andy Reid and the Chiefs.
Yeah.
That game was kind of, it was there.
Right.
The Chiefs, Patrick Mahomes did get hurt. I think they said I think they also said that was a concussion too.
Yeah, it was kind of ironic when I saw that. I was like, same thing happened with Lamar Jackson.
Well, and Chad Henne just kind of, yes, he did throw a pick. He fit right in there.
Right. He took over and he did his job.
Chad Henne did what he could do in college when he played at Michigan. And that was long. They consider that a long time ago, because he's also up there among quarterbacks too. And
what was he, like 34, 35?
Yeah, he's like 34, 35, I think.
Still in the league, though. Great job.
But without Clyde Helaire-Edwards,
you got it.
Yeah, I was like, it's kind of a tongue twister.
Yep,
it's a tongue twister.
Got you.
And the Chiefs did start Darrell Williams. He had 13 carries, 78 yards. Excuse me. And Mahomes did run it in for a touchdown. Now there was
Which
one,
is nice.
And then the Browns looked decent. Yes, for the close game. Honestly, if Patrick Mahomes was probably still in, Kansas City probably would have thrown up the scoreboard a little more.
Probably would have been around maybe like 30.
Yeah, it probably would have been around
30, 27.
34, 17, yeah, probably. They always have that, the Browns have that good running duo, Nick Chubb and Kareem Hunt. It was kind of Kareem Hunt's game to get a little revenge on Kansas City, but he just couldn't quite do that with his... I know it would have made KC look bad had they kept Kareem Hunt just because of those charges and all that stuff.
Right.
But I personally think that Kareem Hunt still has it, and the Browns just look great. I
think next year, I think that if they add some more pieces, Odell's going to be healthy. Jarvis Landry is a little bit of a disappointment, but maybe this year he'll step it up. But I mean, they just have a great offense. You have two great running backs, probably the best running back duo in the league, and then you got Jarvis Landry, you got Odell, you got Rashard Higgins, which is pretty good. You got Donovan Peoples-Jones, which is actually he was a good pick. I mean, he was a nice steal for them. Good tight ends too.
I personally think that if they did what the Colts do and add probably one more tight end and just use those tight ends, pound it down your throats.
I love the 3 tight end set, just using all kinds of tight ends.
And I think they need one more weapon besides David Njoku and Austin Hooper. Austin Hooper was honestly a great trade for the Browns. Falcons kind of wish they still had him.
They do have Hurst, but didn't do good.
Now, everybody's been questioning about that call with the helmet-to-helmet collision going into the end zone with Rashard Higgins and the helmet-to-helmet contact diving into the end zone. Then the guy fumbled, then Rashard Higgins fumbled, and it went into the end zone for a touchback. How do you feel? How do you think the NFL should change, or do you think it was the right call?
Well, if it was helmet to helmet, I thought they should have called that for targeting. I mean, honestly, they need to crack down on that more. Like in college, I think they did a great job about that. But in the NFL, they really need to crack down on that because I mean, it's not really working for players. You know, it's not stinging, it's not hurting for them. Because when you get it's gonna teach them. Because you see like players in college. I mean, I mean, the players are. I mean, they're just like distraught, and when they have to get sent in the locker room. They can't be out there with their players, and especially if it's in the playoffs. You know, I mean, it's your best friends and stuff, and you worked your hardest to be there, and you could maybe not even be in the team next year, and you know, and it's like the last couple quarters of your maybe even of your career, and you know, and you get a lousy hit on someone, which honestly it could solve the targeting rule, or not the targeting, it could solve the concussions problem.
Well, and people have to realize, especially with the NFL and how the NFL over the years has been transfers. I just feel the NFL has gotten really soft. The NFL football is made to literally kill each other, literally.
Yeah.
In a safe way, yes. That's why they made helmets and shoulder pads and all this stuff. I mean, people playing rugby literally have no pads going right at each other. And, you know, they're kicking butt and they're doing that. And I just think the targeting, yes, it helps people with concussions and all these things. I feel that the NFL needs to know when it's targeting and when, and especially necessary roughness, because you don't have that hard hitting anymore like Dick Bucketisk used to do, Mike Singletary, you know, Brian Urlacher, a bunch of these like middle linebackers, Ray Lewis, not just that, but like Ray Lewis, Lawrence Taylor, and all these guys. They literally could hard hit you, and they not call it. I mean, the NFL is should be one of the toughest sports out there.
Right. But I also think though that I mean, yes, I mean it's in their history that it's a tough sport. But I also think, I mean, if you look back at the history of like Mike Webster, you know, when he got the concussion problems, and if you've seen the concussion movie with Will Smith, you know, talking about all that. I mean, it does damage. It does damage to a lot of players, and a lot of players can attest to that. Like after the careers, you see him talking about like some of them can't even wipe their butts. You know, I mean, not like meaning that as a joke, but like I mean, some of them, you know, it's like it's almost like they're not even themselves anymore after their career. And I think, I mean, football is fun. Football is probably my favorite sport, and especially to watch. And I think that I mean, it's a small cost, but I think it'll make the game safer. We need to work on that, especially getting those better helmets, you know. But with the targeting rule, I mean, I mean, you might disagree with it. I think there's like those quarterback like roughing the passer calls. I think those are stupid, and a lot of them aren't even at all. I mean, you just flick them, and then it's breathe on the defender.
Well, and I think a lot of these calls, especially the NFL, is getting a little call happy with certain things just because, I mean, you can literally just do this to a guy, pull their jersey a little bit, and it's technically called a holding or pass interference, you know, wide receiver wise. Or with the honestly, yes, it's to keep the quarterback safe, but being the quarterback's the number one job. You have to snap the ball, know what all going on.
It revolves around the quarterback. Each offense does.
And like you have these guys that they make you land against. Like you have to land against. Like the defender. You can't land on top of him. You have to land against him or hit him. Or like half these late hits. I mean, some of these big guys, like 300-pound linemen, they just can't stop themselves.
Right.
And they're going full speed at them, and you can't help to slow down, but hit someone. Like a guy coming at Josh Allen. Josh Allen scrambles, he throws, and a guy slams into him. Then they get 15 extra yards because of it. Now, we go to the final game of the NFL of the divisional round, and it was the Buccaneers and Saints. The Buccaneers did win 30-20. I thought Tom Brady did look a little, a little shaken up, showing his age too. But the Buccaneers are good. It's that defense that's good. Offense, yes, they have so many weapons and past weapons like Gronkowski and Antonio Brown and all them.
Oh man, yeah, they have the most offensive firepower in the league.
But we all season we've seen it very inconsistent.
Right.
And it's been very shaky. The run game hasn't really been there until yesterday. Yesterday really showed that run game that they actually can have. Yes, it was 127 yards, but
they have the duo Fournette and Jones.
Now, how do you feel about Drew Brees throwing a touchdown and 3 picks?
I mean, I don't know. I mean, it's one of my pet peeves when people talk about that, old age and stuff like that. But
I'm the same way.
But still though, I don't know. He did his attempt for yard average was terrible. I mean, it was 3.8, and then he had a touchdown and 3 interceptions. But the interceptions were kind of just some interceptions aren't the quarterback's fault, and I get that. Like there was some in that Steelers game, Big Ben. It wasn't his fault. Some of those picks, but I mean, it was almost right too. It was almost a nobody the throws. But honestly, I do need to give a shout out to Jameis Winston and really that Sean Payton. I mean, that one play that they had was awesome. I mean, they should just keep doing that without Taysom Hill. But I mean, I'm glad that there wasn't a play that Saints fans could use it as an excuse, as they do every year in the playoffs. When they lose, they make an excuse. They're like, oh, it was pass interference, or oh, Kyle Rudolph pushed off the defender. And I think that this year, I'm finally glad. I'm so glad that it was like a 2-touchdown game, that the fans of New Orleans just couldn't have something as an excuse to use, like, oh, we would have won if this happened.
Now, the year that the Rams and Patriots did go to the Super Bowl, that really was a pass.
Oh, it was. But they had another chance too, which I think, well, it was an obvious pass interference. But I mean, they just needed to let go. I mean,
I feel bad for Saints fans because they're good every year. They can get an easy 12, 13 win season every year, and then always come this close to missing it. Now, for my opinion, it bothers me when, like AJ said, bothers me when people talk about a quarterback's age. And like everybody says, like in today's world and generations under us, since we are both 18 and even generations older than us can say, everybody says that are younger than us say, Drew Brees is terrible. He can barely throw a ball 10 yards. He can barely do this, barely do that, barely do this. Drew Brees, when we watched, and generations older than us, Drew Brees was literally dropping dimes before
and he still is
this year, and he still does. Yes, his arm's weaker, and it happens after 20 years of being in.
But he's a check down quarterback, and I think people think that quarterbacks should only throw the ball like 60, 70 yards down the field, and I think that's not all what it's all about. I mean, it just depends on how your system revolves around your quarterback.
And I personally think that Peyton Manning was kind of the guy who started the really deep ball stuff, but Peyton Manning also was a check down player. He knew it was all mind games for him. He knew already how to do things before certain defense happened.
Yeah, he studied up and he read the defenses, which is what Drew Brees does too.
Now, what bothers me is, yes, Patrick Mahomes is good. I don't consider him great. I consider guys like Aaron Rodgers great because they are great. They already have all-time records. These younger guys, they're not there yet. They haven't led. I mean, Mahomes, yes, he's already led them to a
Super Bowl and an MVP. Now, my question is, and this might be an interesting answer, but if, say, Patrick Mahomes were to retire this year, which I know won't happen, after the say if they don't win the Super Bowl, say if they lose this in the conference championship game, do you think that Patrick Mahomes will be in the Hall of Fame? Or maybe say he season-ending injury. Or if he were to win the Super Bowl, do you think that he were to be a Hall of Famer?
Well, to answer, I'll be glad to answer this question. I think that Patrick Mahomes is the greatest, one of the greatest all-time quarterbacks that the Kansas City Chiefs have ever had.
Right.
Now, greatest all-time quarterbacks.
Maybe besides Joe Montana, but.
Well, everybody can't decide. The decisions for how everybody goes as an all-time quarterback is how many Super Bowls have they won? That's the big decisive factor that everybody's like, oh, Tom Brady did this, did this, did this. He has 6 rings, you know. Wait, he's 5 or 6. He has 6. 5.
Yes, Tom Brady has 6.
Yeah, Tom Brady. Tom Brady has 6. Joe Montana has what, 3, 4? Somewhere around there.
4.
Yeah. And Peyton Manning only has 2. And heck, even guys like Dan Marino has 0. Matthew Stafford, yes, he's been on a terrible team his entire life.
Right.
I could consider him as being a all-time great, not the all-time great, but a all-time great. Drew Brees has 1 Super Bowl. I would have loved to see him get another one, but since they did lose, he can't. I would love to see him get one. Guys like Eli Manning will go down in the history books. Ben Roethlisberger will. Even Phillip Rivers will. Phillip
Right.
Rivers already 5th all-time in passing touchdowns in the regular season.
Right. I think Philip Rivers should make it in the Hall of Fame.
And even guys like Matt Ryan. Everybody's like, dude, Matt Ryan's terrible, you know. Matt Ryan's is a great quarterback. He's
Right.
had to deal with so much. Yes, going to that Super Bowl, poor Atlanta can't seem to hold a lead to save them lives. But it was kind of one of those things to where you couldn't believe it. You can't believe that these guys keep getting better. Like you look in the NFL draft, everybody's saying Trevor Lawrence is going to be the new Tom Brady or the
Right.
new this or the new that. Or Justin Fields is going to be good. Or give Mac Jones. Everybody's saying could go late first round.
Yeah. Maybe even earlier than that. I mean, he's good. But I think that when you talk about like Hall of Fame quarterbacks, I think people think it's all about Super Bowls, and I think there's two different criterias for if a quarterback is worth being a Hall of Famer. One is how have they impacted their team? Like how have they been like what have they done in their career? Like their records broken or say no, there's just Super Bowls, you know? I mean that's all people care about, but I mean, you know, if you're put on a team, you might be the best player in the league, but if you're put on a team with a bunch of pansies, you know, with a bunch of terrible players, you know, like maybe mediocre. I mean, you can't win Super Bowls like that. And so how are you gonna, if you're stuck like that and you're the best player in the league, how are you gonna make a name for yourself? How are you gonna get in the Hall of Fame? Like I think Matt Stafford, and Matt Ryan, some of those players. I mean, they except Dan Marino, you know. I mean, they are good all their career, but they might not even make it in the Hall of Fame, which I think isn't fair.
And it just sucks to see guys like Barry Sanders had to retired early.
Mm-hmm.
Even Andrew Luck. I mean, Andrew Luck, probably this year, had we had Andrew Luck, or, you know, I mean, I don't know. I mean,
Right.
it's everybody's own opinion. And Andrew Luck was a guy who he didn't like the NFL anymore just because of how many times our office staff decided to really not give him an offensive line, sacked 60 times 2 years in a row. Then he gets hurt after year, then finally has that one great year when he comes back, and then decides to retire out of the blue. Now, me being a Colts fan, it was sad to watch him leave, and it was sad to see him go and us barely hear anything about it. Now, Jim Irsay did talk about him coming back later, but Andrew Luck said, no, I'm good.
I respect that about him, and I hate that made me so mad when everybody was booing him at the stadium, and they were about to go through a whole rebuilding process for 10 years, and Andrew Luck stuck through. I mean, hit after hit after hit. I mean, they had the worst offensive line in the league. He broke records for being sacked so many times, but yet he put up numbers after numbers, and he's a young quarterback, and I think. Honestly, he's every coach's dream as a quarterback. You know, he can run. He's strong. He can pass. I mean, he's not a nuisance in the locker room. I mean, and he's just likable. I mean, he's smart. He went to Stanford. Heck, you know. I mean, he's a really good player. And I think whenever everyone booed him, I mean, he did so much for that team. And it's like he was doing so well, and then they're giving him these I mean, he didn't have many good weapons, and his offensive line was terrible, and they didn't do anything to fix that. And they kind of ruined his career and then booed him as he was leaving the field. And I think they should have maybe not booed, but they should.
It's for a Colts fan, especially like me and everybody. We're so passionate about our football that Andrew Luck was going to be our star for, for years on out. Andrew Luck made every guy on our team besides Ty. I mean, he made Ty look phenomenal.
Right.
He made every little guy have a big name, stand out. We didn't have a good running game. Trent Richardson and all these Vic Ballard and all these guys, like, it really didn't go so well. And we never really had a defense. Now, when I loved watching the Colts play this year because it wasn't about one guy.
Right.
It was about
They have a bunch of no-name players.
Well, it was about everybody on the team.
Right.
Now that offensive line is by far the best in the league. You can't argue about that.
Of course, now they have the best offensive line in the league.
Yes.
They got Quentin Nelson and Andrew Luck retired, and I think they would have worked well together.
Quentin Nelson got drafted in 2018, I believe,
Right.
19-ish, and Andrew Luck played that 2018 season.
Yeah, and he did well.
And he did well. Now, us drafting Ryan Kelly years ago helped. And I don't know. It's just guys just don't have fun. I mean, Pat McAfee even told everybody on the on his show, get your money and get out. That's what Luke Kuechly did too. Got his money. Considered one of the great middle linebackers of all time.
Right.
And, he took his money and got out. Gronk at one point took his money, got out, and then said, "Surprise! I'm coming back."
Yeah,
with Tom Brady. I mean, that's just it's how the NFL works. I think the Tampa Bay Bucks, yes, they're good. I think it's more of an advertisement team.
Right. A good team on paper. I mean, you look at they got Antonio Brown, they got Mike Evans, Chris Godwin, Tom Brady. You got Leonard Fournette.
3 tight ends.
O.J. Howard, Cameron Brate, and Rob Gronkowski. And they got
defense,
Sue. They got Barrett. They got
I think that team's more of an advertisement team. Now everybody's like, everybody's going to be like, well, really, you say that? I mean, yes, that is. People can agree with me. And it's just like the Cowboys. The Cowboys are good on paper every single year, and you never get
right.
Tom Brady.
Because their organization is just dysfunctional.
Well, Tom Brady won his first NFC, his two NFC title game. The Cowboys haven't duplicated that since the 90s, 97.
Right.
And it's been 23 years or more since then?
Yeah.
I just think the Cowboys need to rebuild, start fresh, pay Dak his money. They still have yet to pay Dak his money.
Dak's a great quarterback, and I that was so sad when he got hurt. But I think he's going to be a great quarterback. He might even make the Hall of Fame if he keeps this up.
Hall of Fame? You think so?
I mean, if he keeps it up. Now, if the injury could be a problem for him, but I don't know. Not at the Cowboys though. I think he needs to go somewhere else.
And I personally think that. If he goes to the Colts, that's going to be a big money spender, which we really don't want to do.
But you guys do have the money. But I like how you guys are spending it.
Well, we're third in the league with the most salary cap now. The top two teams with the most salary cap is the number 1 and 2 picks.
The Jets and the Jaguars.
Jaguars have about $80 million to spend. The Jets have about $62 million to spend, and the Colts have about $60 million. I think it's interesting, but we'll see what happens.
And they got rid of Adam Gase.
Who do you think will go? Who do you think the obvious choice is for the Jacksonville Jaguars and the Jets?
Probably Trevor Lawrence, I think, for the Jaguars. And the Jets, probably Justin Fields. But I'm glad that Trevor Lawrence didn't go to the Jets because... they don't really have a good offensive line. Well, they got one in the works, but actually the Jaguars don't have that good of an offensive line either. But I think honestly they could get Devontae Smith too if they need a receiver. But they just have so many pieces. The Jets, you could grab anybody.
Now it's obvious that the Jets kind of just tanked on purpose. Now, I don't know why they won the last 2 games, in my opinion.
Adam Gase.
They kind of just threw that down the toilet. But
he couldn't be a good head coach if he tried.
Yeah.
Or he's so bad that he couldn't be bad when it mattered most.
Yep. Anyway, this will probably conclude the evening. We may be back. Who knows? It may just be me. It may just be him. We never know. But this is the Sportsaholics, and
That was
Hope you
fun.
have a great day. Enjoy the weekend of your Martin Luther King Day.